Many novice runners often feel out of breath. Sometimes breathlessness can be quite strong, and sometimes it's so severe that you have to stop. Why does it happen? When we run, our muscles utilize a lot of oxygen, and when we run really fast, our body starts to get into debt, so to speak. So what happens when you have to stop because you're short of breath is that you kind of pay back these debts. Shortness of breath is the first limiting factor that many new runners usually encounter, so it may seem that your priority has to be increasing your lung capacity in order to run properly. In this video, we're going to find out if that's really true. Breathing is an unconscious process. It's automatic. We don't control it. So how does our body know if it needs to inhale or exhale? Does it monitor the amount of oxygen in your bloodstream? Quite the opposite. Your body decides when to take a breath depending on the amount of carbon dioxide in your blood. I know, it's not an easy idea to wrap your head around, because we usually associate breathing with inhaling. For running, we need energy, and to produce this energy, our body needs food. This process is called biological oxidation. In oxidation, a substance reacts with oxygen. So oxidation is basically slow burning. When you burn wood, the end products of this reaction are water and carbon dioxide, or CO2. The same as during biological oxidation. An excess of CO2 in your bloodstream causes headaches and nausea, and to get it out your system, you have to exhale. When there's too much CO2 in your body, you must inhale to exchange it with oxygen. If the levels of CO2 are low, your body doesn't need to take a breath. We breathe with our lungs, but try to take a deep breath. See, it requires some effort to do it. So, do we really breathe with our lungs? What makes them fill with air? Your heart contracts and relaxes thanks to myocardium, the layer of contractile muscular fibers in its wall. We talked about it in our previous video, but there are no muscular fibers in your lungs. Lungs are porous and sponge-like, so what causes them to expand and fill up with air? I'll try to make it simple. The main thing you need to remember is that lungs are not responsible for inhaling and exhaling. The main function of your lungs is an exchange of gas between the air and your blood. Imagine that your lower respiratory system is this tree. The trunk is your trachea or windpipe. These two big branches are your bronchi. These smaller branches are bronchioles, and at the end of them are alveoli, tiny air sacs, each wrapped in a mesh of capillaries. Alveoli are like tiny balloons filled with oxygen, while inside the capillaries there is carbon dioxide, and this is where the gas exchange takes place. The molecules of hemoglobin in your blood pick up the oxygen from the air sacs and return carbon dioxide. In plants, it's the other way around. They take in carbon dioxide and give back oxygen. Now we know that our lungs aren't responsible for inhaling and exhaling, but what causes you to breathe in and out? Imagine that this sponge is your lung and it's located inside this accordion. This is your diaphragm, and these are your ribs. So basically, the work of breathing is done by your diaphragm and intercostal muscles. If you've ever eaten ribs, your sponge-like lungs are located inside the airtight cavity enclosed by your ribs, and at the bottom of this cavity is your diaphragm, a large muscle which allows you to suck air into your lungs through your nose or mouth. A lot of people believe that the bottleneck is your lungs, and that you must increase their capacity through exercise. However, in reality, the lungs are one of the largest organs in your body. If we spread out all your alveoli so they form a flat membrane, I mean, not like a sponge, but kind of like your skin, it would be the same size as this tennis court. As you can see, it's not about lung capacity. Do you really need 2 tennis courts? Your nostrils are small openings, each about the diameter of a pea, and yet when you nose breathe at rest, you get enough air through them. Your nose cleans, moistens, and warms the air you inhale, which is just the ticket. Your lungs love this cleaned, moistened, and warmed air. As you begin walking, you start taking bigger breaths, but you are still inhaling enough through your nostrils, so you keep breathing through your nose. But as you begin to walk faster, you feel it's not enough, so you also start breathing through your mouth. And now imagine what happens if you start running and your muscles need more oxygen. How much more? Your oxygen consumption may increase up to 16 times, but how are we going to supply this amount? It's impossible to inhale 16 times more air. When you breathe through your mouth, the upper airway resistance is much lower. We can say that oral breathing is the path of least resistance. And the idea that you must only breathe through your nose, which significantly increases this resistance, actually makes no sense at all. After running for some time, you'll begin to notice that running is a rhythmic process. Our arms, our legs, our whole body work to a certain rhythm. With every breath you take, oxygen-rich blood is carried to your heart. And the breathing is also rhythmical. You can control the duration of your inhalations and exhalations. You can even count seconds, meters, steps. But believe me, it will be as unnatural as trying to control the blinking of your eyes. So how do you breathe while running? This is one of the most common questions among new runners. There are tons of recommendations telling you to breathe in on every second, third, fourth, fifth steps. So let's try and see. 1, 2. When I was just getting into running, I also tended to think too much about my breathing, but I stopped overthinking it long ago. Actually, our body is an amazing mechanism run by a supercomputer, aka our brain. So it knows perfectly well how much you should inhale and at what rate. All you have to do is let it do its job. Don't get in your body's way and don't try to control what's supposed to be unconscious. And remember all the tips I talked about in our video about running technique. Keep your shoulders relaxed, don't shrug them, or you'll tighten your chest, and you don't want that because your lungs are here and they need space to expand fully. So relax your shoulders and slightly bring your shoulder blades together. That's it. Considering what I've just said, the conclusion is rather simple. Keeping your upper body upright and relaxed helps your respiratory muscles to do their job and allows you to breathe freely. Now you know that your breathing depends on your running intensity. If you're a novice runner and you struggle to breathe during your runs to a point where running gets hard or you even have to switch to walking, I'd recommend you run slower or at a lower intensity. And also, follow our updates because we're going to talk about intensity and how to measure it in our next video on heart rate and heart rate zones. Make sure to watch one of our previous videos on running technique. Bye and breathe well.